Saturday, August 20th, 1832. My name is Laura. I'm 13 and my family and I have just set out on a wagon trail. I've got a brother who's about a year older than me and a younger sister who's about 10 years old. I've also got my mama and my pappy, of course. We're bound, like so many others, to Oregon. I reckon that's the place we are going to settle for the rest of our lives. I've decided to keep a journal of everything that's going to happen. Pappy taught me to read and write, so I figure I'll do whatever I can to keep track of events. I don't expect much, but as the sun begins to rise over the dusty trail ahead of us, I suspect it'll be a journey to remember. Wednesday, August 24th. The barren plains seem to stretch on for eternity in every direction around us. The moving is slow. The weather was looking nice when we first set out, but it has been nothing but rain and sleet for the past few days. Already, we started to fall behind the other wagons in our caravan. Our wagon is beaten and broken. It was from the start. Pappy and Mama don't have much money, so it was the best we could manage, but our wagon's tongue broke for the second time this morning, and we can tell the other families are getting tired of us and our troubles. The trail is usually rocky and dusty, but the storm makes it even worse. The lightning makes the oxen nervous, and the mud causes them to slip and lose their footing once in a while. For such a heavy animal, falling ain't good. Things ain't going too well right now, but I'm sure we'll catch up and make it safe and sound. Monday, September 12th. Been a while since I last wrote. I haven't the time. Things have only gotten worse. The rain finally let up about a week ago, but not before Pappy came down with the sickness, and although the sun is up now, it's just as bad, if not worse. It shines down with brutal intensity and the heat is astounding. The dust from the trail claws at your lungs and the air is ever dry and inhospitable. I can almost see the thorny shrubs in the dusty plains wilting as the heat distortion makes the sea of nothingness around us seem hazy and all the more infinite. We're just barely keeping pace with the caravan. We can see them just on the horizon, but they seem to fade further and further away every day. With Pappy sickened now, my brothers had to start tending to things, and I feel that we'll fall behind for sure now. I'm scared. Something's been following us. No one believes me, but I can see it in the dim light of our torches at night as we try and keep moving to make up for lost time. I feel somewhat safe with the other wagons just up ahead, but if they were to go away, I don't know what would happen. Friday, September 16th. We buried Pappy on the side of the trail by the prettiest cactus we could find. His face has been smashed in. He done it himself. One early morning, his frail, sickly body appeared from out of our wagon and he began walking like a man possessed. We asked him if he was feeling better, seeing as he was on his feet, but he didn't talk to us. His eyes were some kind of frosted over marbles and he didn't look as if he should have been able to stand at all in his condition. He simply walked to the side of the path and gripped a large rock with his spindly arms and brought it above his head, using what appeared to be just about all the strength he had left in him. Then he threw himself to the floor, bringing the rock down on his head in a horrendous crunching sound. We all panicked for sure, and I immediately ran ahead to the other wagons to get help. I ran as fast as I could, but it still took me a good 30 minutes to get there. I finally arrived and told them what happened. They all turned around, but there was nothing we could do for Pappy. We had a short funeral, buried him on the side of the trail, and almost immediately started onwards again. It feels cruel, the way we're just moving on, leaving him all alone in this desert. Sunday, September 18th. My younger sister Lily has started to cough. She insists it's just the dusty trail giving her trouble, but I'm not sure I believe her. I know we're all thinking that she may be getting sick too, but none of us want to think about it. Monday, September 19th. Lily is sick for sure, but not just in the physical sense. There's something wrong with her mind. Something about her isn't at all right anymore. She vomits out nonsense words and her eyes have lost all of their sparkle despite a wide smile stretching across her face like it were carved there. She is hysterical and insists that she sleep away from everyone else, far away from the fire. Mama obviously continuously refuses this demand, as do I, but even if we force her to stay close, we wake up in the morning to find that she's moved away. I'm very worried for her. For many reasons, but mostly because I think that thing is getting closer. Wednesday, September 21st. Lily has become bedridden. We keep her in the wagon as she can't walk no longer. I love her, and I always swore to protect her, but despite all that, I can't really bring myself to look at her. Her structure is that of jagged, protruding bones covered by a thin veil of pale skin tightly stretched over her skeletal features. Her face is hollow and sunken, the deepest rings you can imagine around her dull, permanently dilated eyes. Her irises have started to yellow, and that crooked smile seems to take up more and more of her face every day. She is now begging, pleading that we slow down, insisting that we fall behind the caravan, cackling and shrieking with glee. Startled, I asked her why she would wish for such a thing, and her eyes flicked to me. I lost my breath and nearly staggered backwards. They were haunted. Unimaginable pain hidden deep within her childlike eyes, which, on the surface, were cold and lifeless in a fixed gaze somewhere distant. It was hard to imagine how she was really feeling behind that twisted smile plastered on her face, but her eyes, yellowed and frightening as they were, allowed me to see that she was screaming inside. She was terrified of something. Despite this, however, in response to my question, she stared at me, not blinking until finally saying, "No reason." She said it as if reciting a line, like someone had told her to say it. Thursday, September 22nd. Lily died last night. Or, that's what I assume. We only just found out. It's 2 in the afternoon. We just figured she had been sleeping up until I checked on her to find her cold as ice. I shivered at the thought of her being like that for the whole time we walked that day. Right beside me as I traveled next to the wagon, her long dead body beginning to decay, within arm's reach. We're going to hold a burial for her, but first we've got to catch up to the other wagons. Friday, September 23rd. Lily's been buried. I'm strangely glad at that fact. Something about her body still unnerved me. In truth, her eyes looked no different in death than they did the day before when she still moved and spoke to me. Monday, September 26th. My brother's gotten sick. He too insists that nothing is wrong with him, but we are now far too aware of what the symptoms look like to pretend otherwise. He also asserts that he's asleep far away from us in the fire, but I can tell he's just reading lines he's been given. Tuesday, September 27th. This may well be the last entry I write. If she doesn't kill me, I'll certainly do it myself. I can't bear to try and comprehend the horror of what's happening. It's far too sickening. I can't change what I've seen. I stayed up last night. All night. It was well past 2 in the morning when my brother rose and, as if in a trance, began to stumble away from the fire and into the dark plains surrounding us. Trying to keep low, I snuck after him, keeping my distance. That's when she came, her frail little body staggering forwards with all the wrong movements. Her yellow irises flashed in the night, and although her chest didn't heave up and down in breath like something living, she moved forwards all the same. My heart lurched in my chest, and the most surreal fear I had ever felt gripped me. There was something so indescribably unnatural about seeing her move that I wanted to tear apart the image and erase it from my mind. Lily's corpse was a nightmarish thing, something that shouldn't have been. Reaching my brother as he fell to his knees, she slowly placed a hand on his shoulder before tilting his head back. He obeyed everything with his eyes closed in a sort of sleepwalk. I wasn't even sure if he was conscious, but he certainly didn't react as her mouth erupted open, revealing a mangled mess of what looked like countless hypodermic needles, dripping with saliva. She slowly leaned towards his neck and bit down, sinking each needle into his flesh as sticky saliva flowed in globs and dripped to the ground. I covered my mouth and turned away. Was this what was making him sick? Was this what had happened to Pappy? Had he killed himself before he could become one of those things like Lily? Lily. I shivered. I glanced back to see my brother's body slumped to the ground. Then I looked to see Lily's form bend down and whisper something in his ear, before turning slowly and staring straight at me. My breath caught and my blood froze. It normally would have been hard to tell if she was actually looking at me in the dark, but her luminescent eyes glowed a pale yellow, removing any question of it. She knew I was there for sure. As my pulse quickened, she seemed to notice and her face erupted in a smile, now stretching wider than it ever could have when she was alive. The edges of her mouth appeared to be torn, lips almost non-existent as a gash extended up into her cheeks, teeth lining its entirety. Her white dress was soaked with blood and mud, shredded and torn, and her hands, they were caked with dirt, her fingernails either splintered horrendously or completely torn off. From digging her way up, I thought to myself as I shivered. As I stared at her, her smile kept growing and she licked the sides of her mouth before resting her tongue on her teeth and then forcing it downwards, slowly impaling it on the needles. I nearly vomited as a small jet of blood squirted up and the daggers pierced clean through, erupting out the other side. She was messing with me. I tried to run, tried to scramble backwards in terror, tried to move anything, but nothing came of it. Something about her eyes had my limbs in a stranglehold. I couldn't even turn to look away. My heart was pounding in my chest and I could hear the blood rushing, pumping through me. I thought I was done for. Rather than coming after me, however, she gave one last smile and slowly turned around, walking off and disappearing into the darkness. And I soon saw why. The sky was beginning to brighten ever so slowly, early morning birds starting to chirp as the sun began to rise. I ran to my brother and shook him awake. He looked at me, dazed and confused, more sickly than ever. His skin had become pale and sunken. He wouldn't last much longer, certainly not with that thing visiting him every night. No matter how much I interrogated him about what had happened, however, he simply wouldn't say anything about the matter, and he insisted that he had slept just fine. I looked at his neck and slammed my fist on the ground in frustration. The marks were so small, looking like tiny insect bites. They were almost impossible to see. There was not an ounce of proof about what was really happening out here. Later that day is when he did it. He had been acting strange all day, more delusional than usual, screaming at times and fighting to slow down as me and Mama tried to catch up to the caravan that was rapidly disappearing out of view ahead of us. I was prepared to put up with this, but then, later that evening, as the sun was fading and I was frantically trying to drive everyone forwards before darkness came, he did the unthinkable. Stumbling forwards, neither me nor my mom noticed the cleaver in his hand until he was a foot or so from our ox. It glinted in his hand as he brought it over his head. I finally noticed what he was about to do and screamed in protest, but it was too late. He swung it down with all his might and the razor-sharp blade slashed across the ox's throat. The panicked animal bucked and thrashed around wildly, nearly goring my brother with one of its horns before finally collapsing violently, tipping over the entire wagon as a pool of crimson blood began to soak the ground. My mother screamed hysterically and ran to my brother, snatching away the cleaver and shoving him to the ground. "What the hell did you just do?" she cried. He just sat there, a stupid smile plastered on his face, his eyes dull. "Well," she screamed, "what the hell was that for? Answer me, damn it!" "Mom," I cried, glancing nervously at the sun beginning to dip. "It doesn't matter anymore. What's done is done. We just need to collect as much as we can and catch up to the rest of the caravan quickly." She looked at me incredulously. "Did you see what she just did?" she cried, ready to take another swing at him. "I know, Mom," I cried, "but there's no use punishing him. We have to go." I knew it wasn't his fault. My mind flashed to Lily whispering in his ear and my fists clenched. "Like I said," I continued, "we just need to catch up to the I suddenly stopped as I scanned the horizon. They weren't there. The other wagons, we had fallen too far behind. Fear suddenly gripped me. I broke out in a cold sweat and started to panic. We wouldn't be able to survive out here all alone. Each time my mind flashed to Lily's horrendous face, my heart lurched and I felt sick. She had cut us off, completely isolated us, the weakest of the herd. I won't let her hurt anyone, I said to myself, but then I looked back up to the horizon to see that it had gone a shade of dark crimson red, the sun a dim semicircle, blazing faintly as it was slowly swallowed by the black hills. A lonesome crow, perched atop our downed oxen, made its harsh cawing sound as a flock erupted up out of the darkening plains and flew across the sky in a swarm, intersecting the final glimmers of sunlight. My heart started to hammer. Then the world plunged into darkness. Wednesday, September 28th. Nothing happened that night after all. Help me. I'm going to stop writing now. Sunday, October 1st. My name is Maureen Clarence. I'm Laura's mother, and I've just found this diary discarded on the ground next to her body. As I read the entries, I was horrified at what I saw. To think these delusional, psychotic, and paranoid ramblings were the last thoughts of my deceased daughter makes me sick. Right now, her cold, lifeless body lay sprawled out before me, her structure horrendously thin with jagged bones jutting out underneath her dull gray skin. She has succumbed to the sickness just as my husband's son and other daughter have. I'm all that's left. The loneliness out here on the plains is disturbing and unnatural. Thankfully, I've almost reached the caravan. I'll reunite with him and then come back for the body so that we can have a proper burial. It's nearly past midnight now. I suppose I'll have to retitle my next entry soon. Monday, October 2nd. I'm obviously very tired tonight. I've been taking a break before my last push for the caravan, but the present cold night air and sleeplessness is clearly taking a toll on me. It was surely just a trick of the darkness, but I could have sworn that Laura's body... Never mind. It's just... I could have sworn it wasn't lying next to me before. Hey everyone! I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank all of my subscribers. If you weren't aware, I love writing scary stories, which is fun all by itself, but the fact that there are people out there who happen to enjoy listening to them is just simply amazing. I love the comments, the general support, and any feedback, negative or positive, is far better than anything I could even think to ask for. Even though it's only a few who tune in whenever I post a video, you are what makes it worthwhile. I can't possibly express enough gratitude. Alright, well that was heartfelt. I'll see you next time.